My name is Abubakar Salim. I'm an actor and voice actor. My favorite project that I've worked on in video games, I'd say big scale, was Assassin's Creed Origins.
I am a Magi, protector of Egypt. My land is on the brink of collapse. To defend it, I must become an instrument of justice and freedom.
I was a massive fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise way before I considered even acting.
You are my Magi now, protector of the true Pharaoh of Egypt.
That was incredible. It was like a year and a half of pretending to be an assassin.
There's a new creed now. From darkness we have come, and in darkness we shall stay.
From sort of indie project, small scale, it was good fun and easy to do, like the Bradwell Conspiracy.
Connection established.
Finally!
Good friends with the game designer and the team, and they're just a lovely bunch of people.
Connection to guide network lost. All communications interrupted.
Voice acting just adds another level of storytelling. Being a voice actor, gotta learn the lines.
We must sacrifice our personal lives for the greater good.
A lot of the time is taking an interpretation of the characters given to you and giving it your own spin. So far, so good.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, mate?
How's it going?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all pretty good. Good.
Can we welcome everybody to the third in this Ensemble Salons? I'm Nihal Tharoor, and I'm very, very excited to be chatting with Abubakar Salim tonight. For those of you who don't know, he's an HBO star. He's part of Assassin's Creed Folklore, and now he's CEO and co-founder of his own company. So thank you for being with us, Abu.
Thank you.
So where do we start? Well, I think we have to really probably go all the way back. I mean, you've had a pretty exciting journey to being running your own studio now, and I'd love to just kind of unpack how your experiences have brought you here. But yeah, let's just jump back for a second. If we flash back to Abu at age 10,
Wow,
what
10.
would be going on? What would be going on in your games life? What kind of games would you be obsessing about? What would you be playing? What is Abu at age 10 doing?
Oh Lord. I think I was. Oh God, I think I definitely was playing something Game Boy related, be it Pokemon or like Spider-Man. I definitely had my I was playing on the Nintendo in some way, shape, or form. I was playing like
Classics.
I was playing good classics. That's what I was doing at 10. Basically, my time consisted of either watching like Dragon Ball Z or playing games, like really, really playing games, not necessarily just like, just a bit here and there. Like, no,
Committed.
to the point where like my parents were genuinely worried about my future because I played games so much. There was that whole lecture of like, if you focused on your work, if as much as you played games, you'd be making lots of money at the age of 10. So,
now this man running his own game studio, it seems to have all made sense.
Right?
If only they knew then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, it's been an incredible journey for you. And really the big highlight for you this year has been launching Silver Rain Games, which you co-founded with Mel Phillips. And so I want to kind of get a sense of that moment. There's always that moment in any company where, you might just be sitting in a cafe or in a bar with that person, and you just have that moment where you're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's throw ourselves into this and really try to start a company and realize our vision. And I was just hoping you could kind of describe that moment and how you got it.
So I met Mel while I was doing like a BAFTA talk about Assassin's Creed Origins, and I got introduced to Mel by a lovely guy called Tom who was working at Ubisoft during the whole like marketing and PR and stuff, and also another guy called Dave, and they introduced me to Mel, and I remember meeting up with Mel at a cafe near where I lived in Hertfordshire, and we were just talking, and we just really got on, and I think we both had. We were both very ambitious. We both wanted to make a change to the industry, to the games industry. And this was, I mean, keep in mind, this is like what, 2 or 3 years before we decided like this was going to be something that we wanted to do. Like, yeah, so we kind of, we were talking back and forth and kind of, getting an idea of it. Mel was at, after at the time, and I was still working as an actor. And I ended up doing Raised by Wolves and doing that job, and that kind of put me in a position of not only just feeling confident in myself, but also just in a safe space to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna risk it. Like, let's just risk it. So I ended up calling Mel and being like, hey, want to do something crazy? Remember that idea? Let's do it. And I think, bless Mel, I don't know, she must have been drunk at the time, because I probably wouldn't have said yes. I would have said, you're crazy, and then walked. But no, Mel was like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do this. Having no idea what we were doing, but knowing that we were just going to be riding on this drive to sort of try and make a change, because I think we were so used to the idea of we'd seen so many times this talks of this and that and changing this, and it's always been talks and never really much action, I think we were just like, let's just go for it,
because I think that's something that comes up again and again in your work. It's not just leaning on just talks and just saying things, but really kind of going out and trying to do something and trying to make the difference and trying to be motivated by that change. And I think that really comes across
it's important. I think it is. And I think, there is that drive. And I think ultimately that's kind of what I feel has really seen us through this, and why we, it's kind of why it's working for us. It's because everyone that we talk to, I think they see the genuine love for it. And even though the odds are really stacked up against us in the sense that, be it whatever, like you could say experience, or you could say who we are, like the point is that ultimately, deep down, to the core of it, we care. And I think that connects with a lot of other people out there. And I feel like that's what is kind of seeing us through this, seeing us through all this stuff. Because keep in mind, we also, we decide, I literally ripped Mel from a safe space, and then we fall into a pandemic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally.
You really do pick your.
I pick my moments, don't I? So this is the thing. So it's terrifying. And even as me, like as an actor, like, I haven't done any acting work since last year, since Raised by Wolves.
Of course,
this is like it's a terrifying moment, but genuinely, I do think it's been that drive of like, not only just within the love of the actual industry itself, but also with just the fact that we really want this to work and want this to happen. That I think that we have been able to sort of come now to the end of 2020 and entering 2021, where things will be different. So it's,
and in a way as well, having that, by the nature of the pandemic, where really there is no other, there's nothing in the film and TV work you can be doing. It's probably given that focus almost to really push and develop this games.
Completely. Yeah. I think it's been this weird blessing and a curse, because I think, I don't know. I don't think I would have been able to have given my all if I was running around, pretending to be someone else. I think there is this sense, and also, but that's the beauty of what we're building and what we're kind of installing in the studio, is that I always joke about it, that like, that Mel, there's a reason why I'm like, creative director of what we're making, and Mel is head of studio. That's Mel's home. And and like, and that's the thing. And there is a real feeling and sense of that. And I think it works that way. It can afford for me to do and explore other things and within the acting thing, because it also feeds into the world but what we're building.
Yeah.
But it's it's Mel's, she's head of studio, it's her ship, and she's running it beautifully, like genuinely, like it's one of those things where and I think that's another thing as well, what this whole quarantine lockdown has really sort of done, is it's made everything, you've zeroed in and put your 100% focus on a lot of things. And it's just so wild to think, like, at the beginning of this year we had no idea where we were, and now we're like growing to what could possibly be like a team of 30, and working on something which we all in love and passionate about. It's quite wild.
It's incredible. I mean, it's so exciting. And you've said, I think before, that even a lot of people are buzzed about the world that you're creating. And I know you can't really say much about it. I think you said that Michaela Cole to Travis Fimmel have been looking at this, and they're very excited. And I'm just wondering, taking some of your experiences and how that's influenced you. And so let's take example Raised by Wolves, which I'm very excited to see is coming to the UK next week.
Yeah, finally. Announced, I know.
We get it over here. And obviously with, Ridley Scott and Aaron Guzikowski, they've got this really eye for world building, and what they've done with Raised by Wolves and how they've created this really vivid world. And I'm just wondering, when your approach to world building in your project Ensembler Games, is there anything you've kind of taken from your experiences in that, which is important?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest learnings I learned while working on Raised by Wolves is that it's a team game. You will always, of course, you have you have sort of a hierarchy to a degree, but ultimately, to really truly build a world in which which people will enjoy playing, you have to take in everyone's you have to listen to everyone. I think that's what's key. I think, and also there needs to be a form of communication between from all departments, and that, I think that to me is what was really beautiful about Raised by Wolves, is that it felt like everyone was listened to. But of course, you knew who the boss was, which was Ridley Scott. But then, of course, with Ridley Scott, he's having to then talk to the HBO Max studio and all those guys. But ultimately, it just felt like we were all working in this world. And I think, again, it comes from the top and trickles down, in the sense that what is the example that is set is really key in regards to how the process for everyone is. And that's why, I feel like within the studio itself, like, I mean, on Raised by Wolves, everyone's job felt important. Like, it didn't feel like, stunt guys, they're just there to do whatever, or like, the supporting artists, they're just, it was all like, no, the supporting artists build the world. They like actually bring flesh to this world, depending on how if they are just standing there, like, looking and picking their nose or whatever, it can really take an audience member out of that world. So you have to put focus into that, in the same way that you have to put focus into, like, the stunt team, or the lighting and the rigging department. So with that in mind, when it comes to a studio, you have to look at all the other in the arms of that. The fact that we are really sort of looking at the idea of getting in QA quite early, the idea of looking at UI and UX design, and really thinking about how that can actually nurture and almost change the experience of players, when they're playing games. All this stuff has really been learned from the job beforehand, and just sort of been like, look, let's just, even if we are like way ahead, or we're not there yet, let's just have it at the back of our minds, and we know that it's there, and that we can, that transition is so much easier to kind of to get to, because there's so many, as like there's so many different things going on while you're while you're making games. So it's just being prepared. And I think that was the big thing that I learned with, you know, in Raised by Wolves, is that you can't wing it, number one, but there's also the issue of being overly prepared and sticking to your guns. You've got to have that fluidity, right? Really? And I think that's what has been reflected in this. And I think that's how worlds are built. You know, there is this rigid structure, but at the same time, it's not so rigid that you can't explore and expand and have that fluid sort of, you know, exploration in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, it's such a great experience for you to have been on a project like that before, as you say, going into your world and starting something new. And in the same vein to that, you know, you, of course, playing Bayek in Assassin's Creed, you know, was this huge moment for you. I know you were a big fan of the series before. And as I understand, you were able to briefly reprise the role in their latest installment as well.
Yeah.
Quite cool. So again, you know, what does this character mean to you, and how has his creation as a character kind of again informed your approach to storytelling in Silver Reign?
Yeah, I think, again, you know what? It's like I'd say Assassin's Creed was definitely a moment in my career that really that was the first bit of confidence. That was like the first surge of confidence. You know, it was the sense of like, here I am, this actor who's done like bits here and there, not really done anything, right? Jobbing actor, still sort of trying to make ends meet. And I auditioned for this role and I get it, and it's the lead character in a massive franchise video game. And that's like, the responsibility was terrifying, but at the same time it was incredibly exciting. And I think, you know, and during that process as well, the actual, because I knew the world and because I was really informed of it, and the creatives as well were really again, they were open-minded and really wanting to, you know, bring this world to life. You know, the cinematic director was, you know, he was brilliant, and he would just really, Felix, he was just so open to playing. And I think that was, again, having your voice heard in a space like that does so much to a human being, in the sense of the confidence it brings. And look, I mean, I'm very aware that like also some of the scenes that I came up with or that we did and shot like didn't make the cut in Assassin's Creed. But the point is that my voice was heard, and I felt heard. And I think that really was a surge of confidence that allowed me to kind of go to like the next job, which was, you know, playing a series regular in like a British TV show, which I probably wouldn't have been ready for if it wasn't for that confidence surge. And then it's just built and snowballed like that. And then when I land, you know, Raised by Wolves, it's like, I always look back at like Assassin's Creed and like think, God, that journey has been, it's that same feeling, that same confidence feeling, and that same feeling of like, I think I'm doing all right, you know?
I think that's just fantastic. And it's kind of set you up to be such a great studio head in a way, because you've had these wonderful experiences where people have been so generous, playful and curious, and had these environments where you're allowed to really be yourself, that it must just inform how you want, you know, to bring people into your studio.
Yeah, it really has. And I think that's the thing. And I think there is a sense of, I think that's what both me and Mel have, you know, kind of bring. I think we've both been in environments and met people who have inspired us. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to emulate. I mean, you know, the amount of times, for example, that Mel will mention Joe Twist and how much of an effect that she's had on her is it's key. You meet these people who genuinely inspire, and I think that to be able to kind of reflect that and go out in the world knowing full well that you aim to inspire like the next generation or teach something new, that's the key, that's the aim, you know. And I think that's sort of how we all survive in the long run of it. So yeah.
So exciting. So, you know, being now, you know, the CEO and running it, having to put that business hat on now, maybe a bit more than you were before. Are there any little kind of things that have surprised you? Any kind of unexpected?
Oh man, how long you got?
I don't know, man. Come on.
Like,
Some of the
well, one thing's for sure is that there was a long period of time where I genuinely felt like I came into this thinking, yeah, we're gonna make a game, gonna design a game. And basically for like 99% of my time, I wasn't making a game. I was doing like paperwork and admin stuff.
Yeah.
Like genuinely like learning what it means to open a business account, get a lawyer, look at the legal elements of it all. And there's all this other stuff. And then when it comes to like talking to people to get them on board of the game, you're like, okay, you do this while I'm busy, fixing this or worrying about that or thinking about that. And it's like, you barely have any time of actually building a game. You just are spinning plates in order for everyone else to build the game that you want to build. And every now and then I can come in and be like, no. I mean, thank God for Mel, because otherwise, I genuinely would have no idea still about what it means to make a game. She would have, she's taken a lot of the actual production and producerial side of it all, and helped in that regard. But yeah, I think there's been a lot. There's been a lot of one of the big lessons as well is I wouldn't say necessarily that we've gotten harder in regards to, but we have to a degree, because it's a business at the end of the day. And we've had rejections. We've also had we've also made great mistakes, but we've also had great wins. And I think it's been this rocky journey that we've both gone through it together. That actually we've all gone through it as a studio together. And I think there's been a lot of learnings, man. Like it's not, and of course it isn't. It's the same way as being an actor, to be honest. It's not as magical as you think it is. It looks magical from the outside, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of commitment. I mean, yeah, right? It's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of dedication and focus, and a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of worrying what's going to happen next. A lot of moments where you think, I could have just been on holiday right now, like chilling out, doing whatever I wanted to do. But yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve in regards to from going from artist, to then businessman. It's a different game. It's a completely different game.
Totally. But I mean, it sounds like you're rising to it, and I think that's what it is. I mean, you're building this company, and as you say, you're kind of hiring a lot of people now.
Isn't that terrifying? Convincing all these people to like leave their cushy jobs to join my crazy. It worked with Mel, and I literally said, as soon as it worked with Mel, I was like, if I can convince Mel, maybe I could convince the world. And
that's what you're telling yourself. But I mean, it's so exciting, and people are responding, and people are responding to your passion and to your vision, and that is how great companies are built. So very cool. And yeah, I mean, so obviously Silver Rain Games is at the moment, it's a virtual company, and that you're all working remotely as you kind of build your team. Tell us more about that, about how that's been, as you're growing a team, and how, kind of maintaining the culture and connecting with people.
Yeah.
During this kind of remote world that we're in, how have you been navigating that?
I think it's been a mix of like just talking to people and learning from other people. I think the beauty as well of where me and Mel have come from is that we come from very communicative industries, in the sense that we have contacts with people from whatever sort of either extra sort of community, like communal sort of stuff that we do, be it like this, for example, or like or different BAFTA events like BAFTA Crew, and I think by talking and hearing about different other studio cultures, what works, what doesn't work, and then trying to figure out our own culture, and then when it comes to talking to people and meeting people, I think a lot of the it's actually been a lot easier being in the game development community, because I think everyone has been very open. and been very kind of, they are open in the idea of creativity and creation and that kind of, there's a lot more, it's quite young, and there feels like a lot more of a sense of pure enjoyment out of what you do. And I think that was also what was really interesting as well, working on Ubisoft on the Assassin's Creed game and being on Raised by Wolves. It's like, even though Raised by Wolves was phenomenal and great, there was this sense of like, you got to do this job, you hit your mark, you do this. Whereas with Assassin's Creed, like literally every single person that was working on there and I'd spoken to all loved games, Whereas you might get a crew member who literally is on set is just like, yeah, this just puts food on my table, like it helps. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just such an interesting time as well and you're perfectly placed to have the insight here, with film and TV, which been these such a big part of entertainment and games in the last 25 years, but just increasingly really becoming one of the main medium for entertainment.
Absolutely.
And it's as you say, like working within games, it's still in its infancy relative to film and television. And I guess it's coming with that generosity and that kind of playfulness that maybe these kind of old-time film people are just a bit hardened in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it really. And I think, the team has grown naturally. Like it genuinely has. Like it's not been sweat and toil and trying to specifically find and do this and do that and talk to. It's like it's genuinely just grown naturally just by the sheer sort of love and passion that everyone has for games. And you also learn as well, like, talking to other studios and talking to other people who work in the studios, how to approach, artists, because I think that's the thing. I think everyone to a degree is a creative in game dev, and sometimes it's funny. So basically, as an actor, I'm my Raised by Wolves, a lot like contract itself binds me to that, to that contract for either be it how many odd years it lasts for, but it then stipulates that I can't necessarily do, for example, like other TV bits or whatever without written permission and all this sort of stuff. So there's a restriction, but at the same time they are able to weigh that with benefits in many different ways. Whereas I think within the games industry, what I'm finding and what I'm listening and what I'm hearing is that there is so much restriction for so little. And I think that's something that I think that will change and evolve in the sense of like, I mean, look, for example, we're all working from home, and it's, for our studio, it hasn't really changed much because we've always been a remote studio. But you can see that there are some people out there who are really, really struggling, and who are really, really, studios in particular, which are big studios, which are struggling with this and really trying the grasping of the idea of it. But actually, it's because you've got to kind of be built to adapt. And I think that's what we're very fortunate, with, is the fact that we are quite small and we are adapting. And whereas, you look at the film industry, for example, complete and utter standstill.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's generally because, again, it's like it wasn't. I mean, who was prepared for this? But it's taken a really long time for it to kind of pick back up again, and it's still in its position of panic. It is. It's just about adapting.
And it's these old institutions, they're not nimble. They're not flexible in that same way.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, tell me more then about the kind of sovereigns culture, and obviously a big thing we see in all industries, but particularly in the games industry, is kind of creative burnout. These things where people are just driven very hard and really just can't. Sometimes you just hit a block and you can't continue, and it's something that happens everywhere, and we have seen it in the games industry. I mean, this is how Silver Rain's kind of approaching this as a kind of...
Yeah, I mean, look, this whole, it's like the whole crunch culture kind of thing, right? And it's so funny because it's it's so easily avoidable if you just prepare well and you actually just take time.
Yeah.
I think like it's one, or you just cut. Like, so here's something, right, that I've learned in this sort of small time sort of running a studio. The idea that you have first of all, or the game that you have first of all, to when you start a studio and everything, is going to be so different in like 11 months time to like what it was originally, and then give it another 2 and 3 years, it'll be probably a completely different game from there. And that is and depending on how you deal with that difference is probably going to affect how you deal with the culture of your studio. If I was so stuck and resolute on the ideas that I want, and I kind of want this and I want that feature and I want this and I want that, I think that's how you get burnout and how you get problems, is because you might be asking for something completely ludicrous and you genuinely don't have the resource to deliver. And I think that is, sometimes you have to kind of make those, those cuts and maybe even actually grow within those restrictions and find something beautiful within them. So that's something that I'm learning. I'm learning that a lot of the time that an idea might come into mind, and it might be like a really cool sounding idea, and it might actually, possibly physically be amazing and cool to work with, but you just don't have the resource. Yeah. Rather than be like, no, it needs to happen, and then put your team through such pressure in delivering, you could just cut it or do something simpler and make something more beautiful out of that.
And working within those limitations.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like there's something so beautiful about limitation. And I think a lot of the time people want to try and make big and better, whereas actually if you really look at the limitations and try and figure something out there, it's great. I mean, honestly, like I always joke about it when I say, like, my job is basically to come up with an idea and Mel's saying no. But I love it though, because because she's putting those boundaries. She's putting those limitations, and what ends up coming out of those limitations is something that's simpler and nicer, but still probably has the same effect. And it's just wild. It's so wild. Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I mean, like you look at, some, again, you got some studios out there who are making games that are going to last God knows how many hours, and it's like, and people are obviously suffering, and it's like, just stop. Just cut. You know what I mean? Like, just
coming back to your experiences, it feels like, with that generosity and playfulness and kindness that you've had and been in the studios that you've worked in, and then in the workspaces, it will come through.
Because it's got to be fun. Like, you've got to, it's part of the whole, like, that's part of what makes games really charming. It's the fact that they're fun. And I think people have got to have fun making something, because then that reflects the piece. Sure. And I think that's what is, you got to create an environment that is safe to play. And again, linking back to Raised by Wolves, that's what Ridley created. He created an environment that was so safe to play that me and Amanda were able to make ridiculous choices that actually ended up being, really, really effective on screen. And I think that's because he created a safe space to play, and within your crew as well, and within the cast members as well. Everyone was there to play. And I think because of that, it really aided the whole process. And I think especially in games, like, you've got to, like, of course, there is a level and degree of actually doing the work and actually committing and really delivering. But there's also the sense of, like, having fun with it, because when you have fun with it, that reflects the pieces that you do and the stuff that you do. And then through
not mutually exclusive, the professionalism and the playing that would be part of the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool stuff. I saw an interesting quote you said about that the idea of making films and TV had always been an ambition to you, but the idea of making a game actually only really occurred once you'd seen inside a game studio.
Yeah.
I thought that was just quite interesting in terms of, obviously a film set is a very physical, domain, a physical place, a visible place, but obviously games is by nature virtual. And just how do you think we can, make the business and the idea and in the career of making games more accessible, more tangible for people coming up now?
I think that's something that's completely that's the responsibility of the game industry, I think and believe. I believe that like through being as much as we are open as an industry, we are only open with our peers and not necessarily with the general public. And I think that's something that needs to just be shifted a bit and be changed a bit. And I think especially in regards to larger studios being more open and more accessible and actually being it's getting rid of that stigma that games are for losers in their bedrooms. That's not the case. Like it's within the tech industry and it's within that sort of world. And I think there are different ways to approach it. You don't have to be a programmer to work in the game space. You don't have to be you don't have to be an artist to work in the game space. There are different other avenues of ways of approaching it. And I think we need to be a bit more open about that and talk a bit more about that and just be more flexible with it. And I think there is so much power that these big studios and publishers have that they could really bring to light a lot of the sort of the games world to the public, which makes it more accessible. And just by taking more risks with younger people, with people who wouldn't necessarily have the sort of socioeconomic sort of background or the connections to get in this industry. I think if they start just doing a bit more legwork and looking and seeking out and really trying to make these changes, I think it could really progressively move the games industry so far forward. I think even beyond probably the film industry as it is today, like genuinely.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you're just so well placed in that, you have this visibility in film and TV with, your HBO work and other work like that. So people from maybe who aren't thinking games or gaming and they can see you in the kind of film and television space are then looking towards gaming more and thinking, okay, wow, there's this kind of crossover that's happening. So tell me, so on this, I mean, Silver Rain Games, one of the things it says about on your website is about welcoming new audiences. So this, again, it kind of speaks to what we're saying. I mean, are you guys looking to kind of bring on people who maybe aren't traditional gamers or aren't playing games as much?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why I got Michaela Cole to sit here and play like a little prototype of the game just to see what she does and like and why
you can't tell us what she said then. Give us the
well, no, I mean like she loved it, she was having fun about it, but like and that's the thing, and that's good because that means that okay, cool, we're doing something right. But like even like I think there is that sense of, and I think that like it's more of a sense of we're not sort of inventing the wheel, or like we're not. It's in the sense of like we're not trying to do something revolutionary. We're just trying to do something which just attracts new audiences by the way we approach it, by the way that we represent ourselves publicly, and by how we speak about everything and how we're trying to set an example. And I think that's how you attract new audiences. And by me talking about games as much as I do about Raised by Wolves, I think that piques the interest of more people, in the sense of like people who were interested to hear about Raised by Wolves will come in and hear something about games and they're like, I never thought of it that way. I mean, the amount of times that where I've actually spoken to casting directors and told them about my feelings towards video games, and them not really understanding and having no idea about it, but being so interested by it. It's like, that's what you want to do. You want to start a dialogue. And that's how you attract new audiences. You start a dialogue. You show them the people who are building the game, and you're open about it. And that's how you attract new audiences. And so that's something that we're really really key in doing with our world is creating these new worlds, really exciting sort of spaces, and pushing to just defy what what people also think of what games are in regards to like, oh, it's about so and so who goes to do so and so and saves the day and saves princess whatever. Like it's not about that. There's more than that,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It is at its core this kind of art form, really, and it's about.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's embracing it as an art form and then getting other people to see it as an art form. It's just and I think that's the key, and I think that's how you get, because there is a sense of like as well within the games industry again there is a slight sense of like it does feel quite on its own, like its own little island, and I feel like there is a way of branching it and being more open about it in the same way that film and TV, even though it is an industry of itself, it's a niche industry, right, to get into. But everyone watches TV and film. It's like that's everything's. It's what everyone does, and it's kind of making games as accessible to and as not as taboo to talk about.
Absolutely.
As like talking about like a book or like a TV show.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember a couple of years ago, the V&A did a whole exhibition on games. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was awesome. It was like,
it was great, right?
Games should be in the V&A. Like, why,
yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? Like, and I imagine that did as much good as anything. Just people who don't, again, have these kind of, ideas about games and kind of putting it in a box and then wandering through the halls of the V&A and realizing actually maybe this is really the art form of this century, and that
exactly
that really should be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
So exciting, Abu. I mean, we've got some questions coming in, and please do keep sending them through because we're going to get to them just in a sec. But why don't we kind of begin to wrap up on, the future? I guess now we're looking to 2021, and it's been a pretty crazy year for you now. And what's happening with Silver Rain Games and your other projects?
Yeah, well, so with the game studio, we're still sort of soldiering on. We're close to, or sort of in the midst of talking to a publisher in regards to sort of getting some form of idea of what the future will really truly hold for us. We're in that space still. We're just doing a bit more work in regards to sort of solidifying it. We're in the acting world, I'd say, I'm about to start season 2 of Raised by Wolves, so I'll be filming that in South Africa soon. Got me on this wild diet and training, so I end up coming into my meetings sometimes the most.
You're not going to take it out on Mel when you're
no, not on Mel. I take it out on anyone else. Are you kidding me? Even hunger won't even make me even think of going towards that direction.
Oh, that's good.
But that's kind of what's coming out on the acting stuff. And you know what? Like it's another thing is like I'm aiming to really grow the other spaces. I did open a film and TV production company that has got my focus on as well, which I've been doing and focusing on. I'm doing a bit more writing in regards to the TV stuff that I'm doing as well, and film stuff. So I'm keeping busy. I've
keeping those plates afloat.
Yeah, I just don't sleep, man. Don't
have any time to sleep anymore.
There's no time, man. No time.
Well, I mean, it sounds pretty damn worth it. So very exciting. Why don't we come to some of the questions that have been building up? They are steadily coming in. Starting with anonymous attendee. Abu speaks highly of the support he gets from his team colleagues. What's his advice on building up those networks?
I'd say the advice I'd give in regards to that is use Google. Use Google in regards to learning a bit more about what the industry, different events that go on within the industry, and also just talking to people. By talking to one person, they will link you to another person, and they will link you to another person, and it's just kind of
web,
it's that kind of connections. I think that's how that's not only how you learn about the industry that you're in and gain different perspectives from it, but I think it's also how you build just a good community of friends and people who genuinely want to help in regards to that. That's sort of what I'd say is a good way of going about it.
Nice. Another anonymous, has a career in acting helped you develop your skills as CEO? And have you used techniques you use in acting to help pitch and tell your story? It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'd say it has. I'd say that the what my acting skills have definitely brought has or helped with is the fact that as an actor, you have no idea what you're doing. And in the same way as when you're pitching something, you have no idea what you're talking about most of the time. So pretending to basically know that what you're talking about and being like, yeah, absolutely, like we'll be fine with that. Like that helped a lot.
You're better, more confident in winging it.
Absolutely. Like, it's that kind of thing of like, it's one of the big things in acting is like, say yes. And like literally in most meetings when it goes about and they're like, so have you thought about this? And you're like, yeah. It's like, absolutely. And this is how I'll answer it. So, but I'd say like what it's helped with as well is like, I think the thing with acting and being in that industry is that you need to have quite a thick skin to get on by and be able to take direction and learn. And what you end up doing is you end up going in these pitches and talk to people and you learn. You're open to learning in those rooms as well.
Yeah.
You're exposing yourself as an actor, and you're kind of in the same way that you would expose yourself as any sort of business startup. You've got to be open to that. You've got to accept that vulnerability in order to sort of progress.
Really interesting. We got one here which says, which department in Silver Rain is your favorite and why is it narrative? I have to question whether this anonymous attendee knows you, Abu. But
oh my God, what a question. Brilliant. Oh, wow.
With that one.
I mean, I don't really know what to say apart from narrative are the best, ultimate and greatest department in Silver Rain. And
there you go. You got it. You can quote that.
It just is the favorite.
Done. Solved. Okay. Next one. What is the best way to prepare and deal with failure? So I guess we have been covering with that in terms of your resilience.
Yeah, I think I think it is. It's just about being humble and open, and I think it's and accepting it, and like moving on in the same way that don't let pride get in the way. I think that's really it. Like, it's this again. It's the same way as in acting. It's like you enter into the industry thinking that you're going to be like the next, Johnny Depp or whatever. But why are you trying to emulate someone else's career? Of course you're going to fail in that. And if you don't get that, it's fine. Learn from it. And I think there is that sense of like, whenever we've gone into pitches and there's been no's or it's been like, it doesn't work this way. It's been like, cool, okay. Is there a reason why? And 9 times out of 10, they don't even give you a reason. You've just got to be like, you know what? All right, that's fine. Just didn't work that way. Move on. There is a way. If I believe in this idea, there's someone out there who does. And I think it's just having that kind of that mentality of like, it will work. I focus and I put my head down and and it's coming from a true place. It will work. And that's what you can learn from failure.
Sure. In a way that speaks as well to our next question from Shailesh. Says, what advice would you give someone trying to set up a studio of their own?
Oof, don't do it. No. I'd say the biggest advice is talking to people who have, and just taking advice and taking what they say, take it to heart, but also take it with a pinch of salt. I think there is a sense of if I'd listened to people who had been giving me advice on day 10, for example, of this, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in now if I didn't make this, some wild choices. But at the same time, a lot of the lessons that I'd learned back then have really sort of reflected and showed itself here. So I'd say if you want to do it, like, first of all, think of the people that you want around you and the kind of, that, and start with that. Or if you want to start small and you want to start something, simple, you want to build something simple, if you have the tools to do it, paper prototype it and play around with it, and then start talking to people about finding funds or anything like that, then build a team afterwards. But I'd say it will always begin and end with the team. I think, it's important to have to know people or be in that space where you get to know people who will believe in this, in a similar vision to you, and build that way.
Sure.
And also know that it's hard. It's not easy. It's not a walk in the park, but enjoy that.
Yeah.
Enjoy that, because I think that's where the fuel comes from, and that's where you push yourself even more.
Absolutely. And another one from anonymous attendee: what is the most unexpected best part of games development you've encountered so far?
Oh, I think it's one of the unexpected best parts of game development would have to be the joy of an idea, and it has kind of caught me off guard in the sense of, like, you would expect it, but actually the joy of an idea that was in here being reflected there and playing it never gets old. It never gets old. Always so exciting. Literally, like, you have an idea of it, and you've got this sense of, like, yep, this is how it will play. I know how it will play, and then, it's similar to this, similar to that. But then you play it for the first time, and it's so magical.
That's more exciting than seeing yourself on screen.
Absolutely,
really,
absolutely. Like, I mean, because it's what you're now witnessing is, you're witnessing someone who's been able. You've communicated something to someone. They've taken it in, and they've reacted to it, and they've given it back to you, and you are now playing that idea that someone else has generated. That is like teamwork in its purest form, And I think that's so much better than seeing myself prance about to be someone else on TV, man. Like, for real.
Fair enough. And one final question we've got here from anonymous attendee. Nihal mentioned in the previous interview that the most difficult part of running a studio is to delegate, to give your project away to the people that you employ. How do you see your own role evolving, and how do you feel about stepping into CEO role and giving reins to the rest of the team?
Oh, I love it. Can't wait. Take it away and leave me alone. Like, genuinely, please. Like, here is all of this problem, and take it. No. You know what? It's fine. That's part of it. That's part of the evolution of it all. And I think that's the case. It comes back to the idea of the sense of a sense of release of your ideas to begin with. If I came in here like a dictator and was like, I lead this, whatever, like, you will get a lot of upset people, because that's not how a team plays or how it works. And I think, yes, there are some elements and spaces that I'm good at and better suited in, but also I know that for a fact that, again, that this game will not survive if it wasn't for the team as a whole. So I think it's something that I'm actually really excited about. I think that's the glory and beauty of teamwork and of game design. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to see where it goes, Abu. I mean, it's a fantastic place you got to so far. But thanks for chatting with me, Abu.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank
you.
Yeah, this was great.
Really fun. And thanks everyone else for watching. If your questions, I'm going next time, but next time, if you join us, Abu will be doing the interviewing, and we'll have Rose Bryan in the seat. So definitely jump in and watch that. It should be fun. But from me and Abu, thank you for joining us. And see you soon.
Take care.